I'm really thrilled actually to be a part of this second conversation because the group that we're about to bring up now is a group of practitioners, really expert practitioners, who, as Roberto said earlier, are at the heart of this whole endeavor. And they have agreed to come and share their experiences with us, talk frankly about their challenges and their victories and their needs, and we're really excited to have them here. So I will give you a quick overview as they come up to the podium in order. But then they'll obviously share a little bit more about themselves, their experiences, where they are, and how they work every day to sort of combine these strategies to improve student learning. So first we have Chelsea Jones, who is an instructional guide at the Two Rivers Public Charter School, a high-performing expeditionary learning school here in DC. For 9 years, Chelsea has worked to provide rich learning experiences for students and teachers as a lead classroom teacher, a reading coach, and most recently as a member of the instructional leadership team at Two Rivers. So we're excited to hear about your experiences, and although you have not been part of the Learning Studios work, clearly your school is an exemplar of an interesting combination of these strategies we've been talking about today. So thank you. Next, we have Mary Weller. Mary is the coordinator of secondary science in the Howard County Public School Systems here in Maryland, or there in Maryland, where she supervises the science instructional program for grades 6 through 12, as well as STEM and environmental literacy initiatives in the district. Mary is also a member of Maryland's Next Generation Science Standards Implementation Team, which we're hoping she will talk about today because it's a good example of collaboration across districts working in response to the new science standards. Mary is also a past president of both the Maryland Science Supervisors Association and the Maryland Association of Science Teachers. And Mary has been involved in the Learning Studios work almost since the very beginning in various capacities, and has seen how that work has evolved over time, and has also been, I would say, a pioneer in figuring out how to bring in outside content experts and encourage them to work with the teaching teams over the years. So we're thrilled to have you here. Thank you. And last but not least, I lost my page here. Hold on. Chelsea Berry. Thank you, is the STEM teacher coordinator at Central High School in Prince George's County, also in Maryland, and a former biology teacher, as well as a doctoral candidate at Howard University School of Education in the Education Leadership and Policy Studies program. Her work in Prince George's County and her doctoral work is focused on increasing access to STEM learning and career experiences for high school students. And from her bio, it's very clear, you have it in front of you, but it's very clear that her life's work is to increase opportunities for students and introduce them to many avenues for potential future success in college and career. So thank you for being here. So we'll start out now with just a brief overview of your experience and goals for your work with students. Yes, please.
So I think what I find to be incredibly exciting about this morning, and looking over my notes, what normally would cause me to revise is that the same message is being repeated across presentations. And we're talking about doing things similarly across states and districts and schools and systems and organizations. And normally I would think like, eek, I need to change what I'm going to talk about. But I think for today, repeating is what's powerful, because it feels like we are coming together on an approach that is impactful and powerful for students and teachers. And so at Two Rivers, we are an expeditionary learning school, which essentially means that we believe in digging deep into content. We have a problem-based learning design, which is our vehicle for helping students develop in-depth understanding of content, concepts, and skills. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about how we support teachers in that work. And you'll hear some of the themes of collaboration. And we don't have professional learning communities, but our structures and what we find to be valuable is very similar. So I think what's very important is, in order to develop environments for productive learning among students, it's critical that we do the same thing for our teachers. And my work as an instructional guide is to support and promote teachers' learning. Our mission at Two Rivers, a piece of it is that students become lifelong active participants in their own education. And my job as an instructional guide is to promote the lifelong active learning among our teachers in order to support outcomes for students. It always drives back to the students, but we really want to work on our teachers being learners, our teachers embracing what it means to critically analyze data and to investigate questions and to see themselves as experts in this work too. And we have some whole school structures that support that. Each year, our school develops an instructional focus, which is informed by student data, conversations with teachers, really looking at anecdotal, quantitative, and qualitative evidence of what we've been doing and where we need to go. And it's essentially a question of practice, or an area of inquiry where we feel like doing this work would enhance outcomes for students. And after we determine our instructional focus, we embark as a whole school on a year-long journey of learning. As a whole school, we begin to research. We begin to collect student data. We analyze together. We develop strategies from it. And this is across grade levels. We have preschool teachers that are working with 8th grade teachers on the same question of practice, which really catalyzes our work in creating this, we call it at our school the continuous journey. That it is not just in one grade where we're pushing on in-depth understanding. It is across all our grades that teachers and students are really focusing on this thing together. And we call it a DAS loop, which is a data analysis strategy loop, where we find the data, collect the data, we analyze it, and then we produce some strategies around our instructional focus. Determining an instructional focus does a few things for us. It lets us know where we need to allocate our resources, and that's time for us being one of the most valuable resources we have. We spend a lot of time together in this work and this thinking. The collective effort also allows us to build shared understanding and shared leadership. The bank of knowledge is not held with a principal or an instructional guide or one expert. We feel across the school that we are all learning this, and we are all digging in and developing our expertise and how to expand outcomes for our students. And additionally, it serves to help us build greater traction around the goals. It's amazing when you can hear kinders talking about how they dig into problem-based tasks as well as 7th graders. It's really powerful when we pick a strategy and we're working on it, and you can see the journey amongst all grades. It's powerful work for teachers, and it's powerful work for students too. It actually, and this was mentioned before, it is our own PBT, and that's a problem-based task. It's our own one every single year. And similarly to the ones in the classrooms, it's messy and it's ill-structured. It is a question for which we don't know the answer. And we're really transparent as a leadership team that this is a question we need to dig in together. We don't have the answer and we're just waiting to get you on board. We really are working on it together. And so this professional structure that we have whole school really does allow us to share in a collective learning experience that then filters into weekly common planning times amongst the grade level, also into instructional practice and things that we have in our school called learning labs, which sound a little like your learning studios, actually, where teachers open up their classroom and invite other staff members in to share in a question that's particular to them, but still drives back to the instructional focus. And we we dig in with this teacher, and that teacher provides an opportunity for us to learn, but also they receive some coaching too around it. I was asked today to also talk a little bit about some levers for success, how we take our whole school efforts and make them successful in our classrooms. And a part of that, which I think is incredibly important, is the culture of learning among your teachers and among your students. The students understanding and teachers understanding that mindset is powerful. And that's a part of grappling. That's a part of inquiry. When you are presenting students with these challenging academic contents and you're allowing them to dig into novel problems and tasks, it is about perseverance. It is about grappling. It is about developing and having some grit to dig into the work. And our teachers and our students develop that. And we spend a lot of time, the first 6 weeks of school actually, just building a culture for problem-based learning in the classroom. And we find that that really helps teachers in one grade level, and then as they get students from the next, that they come in having this kind of invested knowledge that, oh, I know what the growth mindset is already. I've got one already, and I can use it when the work gets really hard. Additionally, I think having a balanced approach to instruction is very important. Problem-based learning is exciting, and it provides students opportunities to really dig deep and study to build a depth of understanding rather than a breadth of content knowledge. But that's not the only approach to learning that is powerful and important. Students do still need opportunities for direct instruction. They do still need opportunities for differentiated learning where you have them in smaller groups and targets are tailored directly to their needs. And so it's about building teachers' capacity to design and implement problem-based tasks, but also to design and implement balanced instruction across the week. We get a lot of questions when people visit Two Rivers, like, do you ever tell children answers? Or do they just study messy problems all the time? And I think that's a misconception about problem-based learning, that it is all no answers and deep thinking. In order for students to dig in deep and really understand concepts in a way that develops expert thinking in a discipline area, they really do also need the basic skills and knowledge. If students are going to grapple with complex text, they also need to know how to read complex text. And so that balanced approach to instruction is very, very important. Our school, when we decided to shift to putting problems at the heart of our learning expedition, spent 4 years in an instructional focus of how do we create and facilitate tasks that develop in-depth understanding for students. And at the end of a 4-year journey, we are moving forward into thinking about how we communicate our understanding in writing, but we have such a rich bank of ideas. And by putting teachers in the position of leadership and really developing a shared understanding, our work feels sustainable. It's not housed in one teacher's knowledge or one person or one leader. It's really in our water, and everyone's swimming in it, and it feels really good. And so I'd say that making sure that you provide structures for whole school knowledge building and capacity building is really important.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I love this. I love this digging in for the continuous journey language. I think that's really helpful because, as we all know, this is a hard, long slog. So it's nice to be able to have that conversation openly. I also love what you said about this idea of teachers being empowered and working in a collaborative environment is what will lead to sustainability. I think sometimes we talk about sustainability as coming from the outside, that someone else will help sustain this. But what you're saying is really important because it's really the teachers being invested in doing this work that'll lead to sustainability. So thank you very much. I'm sure there are lots of questions developing in people's minds right now. So Chelsea, would you share?
Absolutely. Thank you all for the opportunity to provide a perspective from the ground, because sometimes there's a disconnect between concepts and the actual practice, because now I actually have a substitute teacher in my classroom, so I'm in the trenches as well as having the experience as the science teacher coordinator and the STEM academic coordinator. I do still teach, and so I appreciate the opportunity to give you all information from this lens, this side of the fence. As far as my role in Prince George's County, I serve as a science teacher coordinator in Central High School. And it's in this capacity that I serve as a liaison between the teachers within the science department as well as the administrators. So whatever concerns, whatever issues, those things are mediated primarily through me, as well as aligning the budget with the department needs and the teachers' desires as well. And I also coordinate professional development for the teachers as well as collaborative planning. And my work with NCTAF has been really important because it's helped me perform better at this capacity as a science teacher coordinator as well as a science teacher. I was introduced to NCTAF in April of 2010, so I have a few years in it, and I appreciate it. We were approached, my principal and I, along with some of our colleagues, were approached by a panel of NCTAF representatives and introduced the Race to the Top concept to each of us, and we were very excited about it. We developed our team within our school, and we also decided upon which students would be a perfect match for this effort, this initiative. You know, we have International Baccalaureate, we have Advanced Placement, we have French Immersion, all of these other initiatives that are in place within the school system, but we wanted to target students who may not be involved in these advanced courses or these tracks that are highly sought after. We selected a heterogeneous group of students from 9th to 10th grade to participate in the NCTAF Learning Studios, or our STEM team at Central High School. And when I tell you all that the people, the students, the parents are so excited about being a part of this effort, there is a waiting list. We had to have a cutoff number. Students come up every single year. Can I join the STEM team? Can I be a part of it? And sometimes we have to turn them away because we've reached our capacity. Because of the work that we've done with NCTAF, the examples, the activities, the instruments that NCTAF and the support systems that they've provided, the students are very excited about the problem-based learning. And the teachers, the relationships that Dr. Lowry mentioned, are not only with the students, they're with our colleagues as well as the outside content experts. So everyone is really, really excited about it, and so am I. I'll give you all a quick synopsis of what our experience with NCTAF is. Each quarter in our school year is broken into 4 quarters, not semesterized like the upper levels, the college levels. So there are 4 quarters, and in these 4 quarters we have design sessions where every NCTAF team within our school system, Prince George's County, comes together and we collaborate. Our professional learning communities become strengthened because of these design sessions. It's a full day of collaboration. We have our substitute teachers. We are off campus so that our focus is exclusively on the task at hand. We're able to interact with other teams within our school system. We're also able to collaborate with the outside content experts, which is monumental and really important for the work that we do within the schools, because resources and funding is definitely an issue. So having access to the outside content experts has proven to be very instrumental in the success of our STEM team. Now, that was it as it relates to our teachers collaborating. The STEM team at Central High School is successful for these reasons that I'll mention. We host a series of Voices from the Field workshops where those outside content specialists come in. We've even networked with our own individual partnerships, whether it's a dentist or a physician or even an attorney. They come in and they have conversations with our students. They show them what a STEM career looks like. They talk about their journey to get to where they're going. The students have that intimate environment with them where they can ask those questions that are really burning in them. How did you do this? What did you do to get to that? What does this even mean? We may talk about STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but what is engineering? What is an engineer? What is a quality assurance engineer? What is a mechanical engineer, a chemical engineer? So we have these people come in and talk to the students and give them information on what their job entails. I was very excited when Ms. Donna came up and gave her information about Encore, because that is so important to the work of moving students toward going into the direction of having STEM careers. We talk about global competitive status in the United States and driving our workforce, diversifying our workforce. This is the way that we do it. We show them what it looks like so that they can develop that interest in it, and that's one of the things that we do. We also have what we call STEM Trip Wednesdays. We try a couple of STEM trips a month where the students are not only being exposed to what STEM opportunities exist, but they're also problem-based learning STEM trips or field trips. And I'll give you an example. One year, our students took a trip to the Botanic Gardens in DC. And there are no solar panels, and that's our theme. Our theme is energy conservation, how to make solar energy economical. And so we visited the U.S. Botanic Gardens, and we learned that there are no solar panels there. And so the students were tasked with figuring out or developing a plan for implementation if they had solar panels. And if money wasn't an object, resources are infinite. How would you install these solar panels? What would be your rationale for installing these? How would they be installed? Would they be on the roof? Would they be in the jungle part of the Botanic Gardens? So it's problem-based learning as well. We also participated in DNA Day. We collaborated with the National Institutes of Health and the Human Genome Anniversary. And so the students were able to visit the Natural History Museum and participate in that discussion, ask questions to a panel of doctoral fellowship students, as well as those who are in the field. They were able to really interact with them. The STEM trips are also for exposure. We visit the Koshland Science Museum. We have visited Baltimore Aquarium, the Maryland Science Center, as well as another problem-based learning activity that they've done as a field excursion. We visited Harbor Place, which is in the city of Baltimore, the Inner Harbor. The students had to interview the businesses, the managers, those who were working there at the time, asking them what types of green efforts is your business employing to make this place better. They introduced the employees, a lot of times they introduced them to what green was, because some of the employees were clueless. And so it ended up being a learning opportunity for them, the student, as well as the employee, because they were forcing those employers to think about what their practices are within their business, because our theme is making solar energy economical. So as you run your establishment, what could you be doing better? And so the students had a grand time with that. Those are just a few of the really exciting things that NICTAF has served as a catalyst in allowing us to support our students with. In addition to that, we have general assemblies where we meet with the students. Remember I said this is a heterogeneous group. And so that's 9th through 12th. That means we cannot have, all right, first period is going to be especially designated for STEM, because the students are all over the place. There's 9 through 12. And so with the support of our administrators, we have general assemblies so that we pull our students together for a period of the day. And we have our STEM chat series. We also have had permission to have a couple of STEM days where the entire day is associated or focused on that problem-based learning, that activity, that task, that question that the students are answering. And because we have that team of interdisciplinary specialists on the committee of STEM, we are able to allow the students to look at STEM in different perspectives. Each of the members have a different strength. For instance, I'm in the sciences. Another person may be the technology coordinator. We've even had a health One of our health teachers participated on our STEM committee. And with those strengths, we've had the media come out and capture some of the events that the students are working on. And I mean print media, the students are featured in the newspaper, the students are on television, they see themselves, so they're really getting excited. But back to the STEM day, we took over the auditorium and the gym. And this is just one example. And the students are given an overarching essential question. Then they are divided into several teams in which they're answering a sub-question. For instance, those variables in those sub-questions could be, what are the effects of cloud coverage on solar energy production? Another variable could be the time of day. What is the effect of the time of day on energy production via a solar panel? The arrangement of the solar panels, the angle of the solar panels. So they're answering these questions. This work is not possible without the help of our outside content experts. One year we partnered very closely with the Department of Energy. One of the Albert Einstein Fellows really worked with us, and it was amazing because of the resources. We are just a regular public school with a population of about 1,000 students. We have a regular budget. And sometimes that budget does not warrant us the opportunity to have access to the materials needed to answer these problem-based tasks. And so with the collaboration with representatives from the Department of Energy, we were able to obtain supplies and equipment so that the students could have a full day of implementation. We were able to partner with Howard University, Strayer University, Department of Energy, the NEED Project, all types of partnerships because of what NICTAF embedded within us. And although the grant has ended, the Race to the Top funding has expired, what has been established thus far, we aren't really concerned solely on funding because we have the foundation. We know what we can do. We've established our network. We know who we can reach out with. We've had that time to develop curriculum mapping, what resources are needed so that we can start early. In the design sessions, and I know that I'm going back and forth because I'm really excited about it. With the design sessions that we have quarterly, not only are we able to collaborate with our colleagues and the outside content specialists, but we also have the opportunity to perform curriculum mapping. And in curriculum mapping, we are able to align Common Core state standards, next generation science standards, our own state standards with our specific task. And that information, that time that was taken for us to learn how to curriculum map, we can take back to our schools. And in my capacity as a science teacher coordinator, I can then forward those skills to the people within my department. And also serving as a professional development lead teacher, I can forward on to the other personnel within the school building about what curriculum mapping looks like, the importance of curriculum mapping, how it keeps you on task, how it ensures that the students will be prepared for those PARCC assessments, how the teachers are understanding how to even unpack a Common Core state standard. So the work, the foundation has been monumental in several ways, not only with the students, but as well as with the professionals within the organization. Now, I know I've tooted the horn of NICTAF very well. However, there are some hindrances that I like to bring to the carpet, which is another reason why I thank you all for the opportunity of giving you the perspective from someone from the ground. Because, again, there's a disconnect between concept and practice. Sometimes it sounds really good, but when it comes to implementing, there are a few kinks and hiccups that have to be worked out. One of the things that I recommend, and again, I really stress how important I believe that Encore's work is, because sometimes those outside content experts aren't available to really provide the type of support that we need. During those quarterly design sessions, they're there a couple of hours, and that's great. But when the teams of teachers need that support at the school, their schedules may not permit it. sometimes when we need those resources to actually implement those activities that we've discussed during the design sessions and in the curriculum mapping, they aren't available. They aren't able to provide those resources. We lucked up having access to that Albert Einstein Fellowship representative from the Department of Energy. We were so excited. However, that next year, her fellowship ended, which meant that we had to really struggle to find a workforce partner that could meet our needs. So that's something that we could possibly work on. Also, having those workforce partners available to even come to the schools to interact with the students. And I understand that their schedules are busy, which is again why I stress the importance of the Encore Fellowship that Ms. Donna mentioned, because they're going into that aspect of the arena that we desperately need them. Because sometimes the teams of teachers who work with NCTAF or work on these STEM teams, our area of expertise is not mechanical engineering. It's not statistical analyses. So we don't have that background. We don't know that. We teach a curriculum, and yes, we have our professional development where we gain insight to the newest and most updated trends in education. However, when it comes to implementing that problem-based task via problem-based learning, we may not have the know-how. And so having that relationship and collaboration with outside content experts is really important. And so with that, I'll stop. I may have exceeded my time, and I apologize, but I wanted to
I
get
think we
it
can
out.
all just go home now. We're done. No, I love this because, I mean, so many times you are at these meetings and you ask people what their challenges are.
Right.
And they do the sort of job interview kind of challenges where it's really a strength, but it's not actually a recommendation. So I think that is very helpful. And you've actually, we at NCTAF really appreciate all the all the kind words, but you also you gave such clear examples of how this looks at the classroom level and what it means to the teachers and the students. I think, you know, we're getting to this exemplar, this group of exemplars that are so important. So thank you very much. And next, we'd love to hear from you, Mary, about the district, your district level experience.
Well, great, and thank you, and good morning to everyone. And as has been said by everyone who's preceded me, it's a real pleasure to be here today, but let me also be clear that I am deeply humbled to be sitting before you today to share with you my story. And I think that's about all that I can possibly do, is to share with you some of the stories that we in Howard County have lived through over the years, and the ones that we're planning for the future. Because as Dr. Lowry made very clear, this is an exciting time in education. It's exhilarating in education, and it keeps us up at night sometimes. But it is a pleasure to be here. And I guess there's this one brain cell that's firing continuously, hoping that I'm not the non-example of success that's been called up here. Don't do what Mary does. So, as has been said, I am here from Howard County, Maryland, and Howard County is in the central part of Maryland. We're a medium-sized district of about 52,000 students, and traditionally a very high-performing district, and yet a district that's undergoing significant change in terms of the students that we're serving every single day. We are seeing increased poverty, we're seeing increased diversity, and increased challenges. And to say that we're a high-performing district, I think, is absolutely accurate. However, when we start looking at individual students, we find that there are significant and pervasive gaps in student achievement, and these are gaps that we are very much trying to close. And not close by holding one group steady and bringing another group up, but instead by moving everyone up and ensuring that everybody really is prepared for that unknown future that awaits each of our young people. Within Howard County, within the past few years, we have really done some significant self-examination, and we have reestablished our vision and our mission. And I think that it's very important that I make that clear to folks what it is that we're about in Howard County. We worked very closely with our community and with everyone within the schools to develop our vision and mission, and my paraphrase of it is that every student is inspired to learn and empowered to excel within a vibrant learning community. And we have, to support that vision and that mission, 4 goals. And the goals speak to many different players within the school system. One is certainly the students, ensuring that every student is in a position to achieve academic excellence for the future. Ensuring that all staff are engaged and supported in the work that they do each day. Ensuring that families and the community are partners in the endeavor of helping students towards learning. And finally, ensuring that we are in an efficiently run, well-organized structure. And when I hear that vision and that mission, and I think about all of those goals, I recognize that really the work that we've done with NCTAF, the work that we are striving to do related to project and problem-based learning really wraps all of those things together. I'm going to call it a neat little package, but we know it's not because there are things squirting out from the sides, right? It's not very neat. It's messy. Learning is very messy, and we've heard that reiterated over and over today. But importantly, at the center of that package is the student, and we've got to make sure that we are keeping that student at the center as we make decisions and move forward. It's clear from what we've heard today, and it's clear from the work that I do each day, or try to do each day, that formulas aren't going to work. The one Learning Studio formula will not be the silver bullet for all that ails us, but it is perhaps one. And there are lots of lessons that can be learned, taken away, and applied in new contexts. Because as was said earlier today, the idea of a professional learning community is really project-based learning for teachers. And so I think that's a very good comparison for us to bear in mind. So how do we make it work, I guess, is really the role that I'm intended to try and shed some light on today. And I guess my answer is I don't know. But here's what I try to communicate to the people with whom I work daily, is that, you know, learning, this complex thing called learning, it's really like a very complex tapestry that can be woven together over time. And this tapestry, in order to be woven, really needs a loom on which to be woven. And I guess I think of myself and my colleagues in the district office and our colleagues at the buildings in the forms of principals and other administrators, that we're really the ones who must construct that loom. We design that loom and we construct it not in isolation from what the users of that loom need, but it's really my responsibility to ensure that there is a loom that's there, that's solid, that can be flexible, and that's ready to operate. And once we have that loom, then, you know, we can string on the warp. Those are the pieces on a loom that you can think of as going longitudinally. And those are really kind of our standards, or perhaps our performance expectations when we think about next generation science standards. But it's really my job to make sure that those learning outcomes are well understood and are strung well and securely in place, because they must be in place in order for the weaving of this tapestry to begin. But then, this is where my analogy, I think, has some shortcomings, because usually when we see someone who's weaving a tapestry, we see an isolated individualist who's working that loom. And I don't want to give the idea that that's really what I'm intending here. Instead, I'm picturing a really big loom that one person can't possibly operate, right? And so we've got lots of folks who are taking that loom and making it operate, and beginning to take that shuttle, and with the weft going back and forth and over and under and making that design. And those are the teachers. Those are those outside content experts that can really give that advice and that insightful viewpoint of, you know, I really think you should go over the fourth instead of over the third in order to make the design very real. It's the students who are also helping to move that shuttle through the loom. And, you know, it's the families and others who are going to contribute to that as well. But the only way that the weaving of that tapestry can possibly occur is if, in fact, we've got the things in place that allow us to make good decisions, allow us to have access to resources, and allow us to move forward. And, you know, sometimes the tapestry can be really intricate, really involved. Sometimes it might just be one of those little pot holders that you make when you're 5. But either way, ultimately, the weaving has occurred, and I think that when we're weaving those tapestries, we're doing something that's different than the way that schooling has been done in the past. And we must continue. We have to be persistent. We have to be really focused on ensuring that we can do this. And I think we also have to make sure that we celebrate, because the making of that pot holder may be just right for a teacher's or a teaching group's first foray into project-based learning, but that's okay. Look, you made the pot holder, now let's make something more. And that's ultimately where we want to build capacity among our teachers, so that they can be flexible thinkers, so that they can take all of the tools in their toolbox or tool belt and apply them to the situations that will come their way in order to help the students do that. I guess as I close, you know, I mentioned before the importance of the student at the center. And so as I take this metaphor of the weaving of the tapestry to its conclusion, you know, my younger son, whose birthday is today, he turns 11, but he for much of his life, he'd kill me if he knew I was telling people this, but for much of his life, he's had this blankie, right? We've all had these blankies, and it's a very comforting sort of blankie. You wrap yourself in this blankie, and it just makes you feel good no matter what the temperature is. And I'd like to think that the learning experiences that we provide to students, especially when they're rich, like what we're describing here in the terms of project-based learning, and where teachers feel supported and safe to take risks, and we're all learning side by side. I hope that those learning experiences can be a bit like that blankie, but we've woven it on that loom that was described earlier. So with that,
Thank
think I'm
you.
done.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I like it's freezing in here, so I like the blankie metaphor. I also would say that I think maybe we need to change the term we're using from exemplars to, you know, examples of improvement and continuous effort, because I think you're all definitely showing us that it's not a one-size-fits-all model. It's not a silver bullet. It is working every day in your context with your students and teachers. And so we really do appreciate you sharing all these, all your stories. Do we have time for questions? Okay. So we'd love to take some questions from you all. Oh, sorry. Here's the mic.
I'm Dorian Janney, and I work at NASA. I was a teacher, a public school teacher for 33 years, and gosh, it's really nice to hear. It was nice to hear the theoretical parts and the percentages and everything, but it's really nice to hear the voices from you know, the trenches. So thank you so much. And I know, especially having been a teacher, all the lesson plans you have to create and then get back to and take care of. But here's my question. So now I work at NASA, and I was a part of the NCTAF, you know, learning studios, and loved it. One of the places where I see this problem, perhaps, is that there's so many schools that we would like to go and work in, and there's so few of us who are able to or to really get to that place where we can meet the developmental needs and the school needs. Using technology, we're able to hopefully meet a lot more, you know, go to a lot more schools via virtual technology, webinars, you know, that sort of thing. But I'm wondering, is that enough? You know, what are your feelings from being in the trenches, you know, if you don't have the actual physical presence of the external content expert? You know, if they were to instead interact with you via the teachers and the students via, you know, technology, webinars, emails, that sort of thing, is that enough? Do we know yet? You know, because that adds to our leverage, you know, efforts, and that's kind of where the push is to have greater leverage. But perhaps it takes away that individual and that very important relationship. I don't have the answer, so that's why I'm asking you.
I'd like to respond. I think that it's not enough. I really don't, unless, and I say that with contingencies, Because if there are technologies that are in place, such as Blackboard Connect, or even as simple as Skyping, where it's not a simple webinar where I'm looking at you and you can't see me, where I think that's where the disconnect is, because then the students may in turn feel as if they're being lectured to, and that's the opposite of problem-based learning. Whereas if it is a software or technological something that allows the students to perform a distance learning interaction with the outside content expert while they are in the classroom setting, where we may have the materials set up in different stations and you're interacting with us about what do we do now. It's as if you're there, but you're not. And so the students can then say, hold up, I don't understand, I have a question. And you're able to answer that question. You're able to walk them through. And it's not alleviating the need of the teacher there. It's supplementing what we already have. And I think that becomes a tool that we can use to reinforce, to strengthen what we already have. And so the technology is great, but I think if used properly, it's greater.
I'd like to add on to that. I think it's a combination of supporting teachers in their planning of learning experiences as well as working with students. And so I think there's some front loading that we can do with experts in the field, and also with helping teachers as they plan for problem-based learning or any content area learning. How do we uncover discipline-specific knowledge, things that make the difference between a novice in that field and an expert? And then whittle that down to what's appropriate for them as far as development is concerned. You know, we do chemistry with fifth graders, and there are powerful scientific ideas in that, and then there are ones that are totally appropriate for them as fifth graders too. So you make these distinctions between what is the expert knowledge that is transferable, that's developmentally appropriate, and also incredibly engaging for them. And the use of experts in that planning and helping teachers to really tease out what is the difference between knowing chemistry as a novice and knowing chemistry as an expert, and how do we communicate that to students. Those become the big ideas of your expedition, and that becomes the anchor of your work. And so using experts on the front end with planning, I think, would be incredibly powerful also.
Could that be done online, or does that need to be face-to-face?
No, I think the use of technology there is incredibly powerful, and that can be done online, that can be done through where you are, just numerous modes of communication. What I think is impactful is if you work twofold on empowering teachers to do this type of planning and thinking, as well as then how do we strategically use experts? Kind of this idea of the biggest bang for your buck, because you can't be there in the classroom every day. But there are critical experiences that we would love for you to join us for. There are interviews that we would love to have you there for, but how do we plan for that and have a knowledge of what you do best to help us do what we do best? I think if you approach it in both of those ways, it could be, you get more leverage for your efforts.
Hi there. Thank you all for your comments. My name is Beth Glenn. I'm with a group called the Alliance for Smart School Systems and Communities. So Mary, hearing your 4 goals really resonates with us. My question was for Chelsea, and other folks can speak to it as well. I was wondering if you do anything special in terms of inboarding or induction for your new educators when they come in to kind of sensitize them to this different way of working that they might not be familiar with otherwise.
So we do a few things, because we sometimes feel like it's a different world where we are, and we want teachers to be successful in joining us. Our teachers actually are leading great innovative work in our school about documenting core instructional practices. And through a small teacher and administrative leadership team, they are videotaping teachers and creating kind of a series of learning experiences for them. We also spend 3 weeks in orientation at the beginning of the year, and that first part of it is relational trust, transactional trust. It is about understanding our practices and being able to feel like you can collaborate. Our entire first week of orientation is about understanding yourself as a learner and contributing to the team, and really being able to adopt some practices that help you collaborate. Because a big part of our messy work is minds, and being more minds in the room is more powerful. And so we spend a lot of time in the beginning of the year working primarily on how do we work as a team and how do we trust each other in this messy, ill-structured problem-solving environment. And those are some whole school things we do, and there are a few other things like I lead professional development workshops. We have a series of math learning workshops that are open also to people outside of our school, where we ask people to come in and learn a little more about problem-based learning and how we do this, and how you develop a culture of learning like this in your school. And so we're trying to make sure we onboard teachers and are able to do this work.
So just a follow-up question about turnover. I noticed you said you took 4 years to talk about your lesson planning, and so how do you handle
When people leave us, yeah, we cry. Institutional knowledge is important. In housing, institutional knowledge is important. We do truly believe that we don't want to necessarily take all of our teachers out of the classroom, but we have a track within our school where if I was a classroom teacher and spent 6 years as a classroom teacher, one of our vice principals began as an assistant teacher. And so we certainly believe in our leaders are the people who have invested in this work and also have the institutional knowledge about how to do it. And we become, kind of guides for this also. So
Great.
other than being sad, that's what we do.
I think we have time for one more question, okay? Or comment?
I just wanted to acknowledge your concern and also acknowledge that across all of the Encore career work, the idea of creating a platform where you can identify the needs that you have and Encore careerists can seek out those needs, that idea of matchmaking is one of the biggest challenges that we're facing. And so I think pursuing that would be helpful. And I'm here also not only to share, but to report back to those people at the national level what some of the issues are that we can continue to work on, and I will do that on your behalf.
Thank you. And it's actually a great segue into the next part of our conversation. So please join me in thanking this wonderful panel. Really appreciate it.